Nigel's been working the phones to get to the bottom of this so-called freight hike, whether it's happened, not happened, on what commodities and how much. Nigel,
Surabhi, let's go across to our guest. We have Mr. Jamshed, the member traffic of Railway Board, who joins us on the phone line. Hi, Mr. Jamshed. Thanks so much for joining in, sir. Sir, we have some news that's coming in that there has been a railway freight that's hiked by around 19%. Could you confirm, sir, whether it's on everything or it's only on the movement of coal?
No, this is not a hike. Basically, we are calling it a rationalization of coal tariff structure.
Okay.
And this has been implemented from today, arising out of a joint meeting that took place between Railway Ministry and the Ministry of Coal.
Okay.
And in order to encourage the movement of coal for long lead powerhouses, which are beyond 700 kilometers, rationalization has taken place. And in this rationalization, we have reduced the freight rates on coal movement to those destinations which are over 700 kilometers, 700, 1500 and 2000 kilometers. So this will greatly benefit the industries which are located beyond 700 kilometers from the pitheads and also the thermal powerhouses.
Right.
At the same time, we have tried to rationalize and make certain adjustments by some levy of surcharge in terms of the terminal surcharge, which has been levied across the coal movement. And this is only for coal moving to the thermal powerhouses and coal also moving to various industries.
All right. So, Mr. Jamshed, just to get that point right, this is rationalization of the rates is what you're saying for movement of coal more than 700 kilometers. So there has been some rationalization, while from 200 to around 700 kilometers, over there we have the price hike that's taken place. Am I right on that?
Yeah, that's right. There's a marginal adjustment between 200 to 700, and there has been, in fact, no hike of any kind between 0 to 100. Okay. I mean, this is a segment that we have been targeting, and we are wanting to kind of regain our share from roadways to railways. And so from 0 kilometers to 100 kilometers, those powerhouses which are located near very close to the pit houses,
right,
the pit heads, those have been exempted. And we have also reduced, as I already mentioned to you, the freight charges beyond 700 kilometers.
So, sir, can we start putting some numbers? And now that we've drawn up the three buckets, 0 to 100 kilometers, no hike. 200 to 700 kilometers, you said there's been a marginal increase. How much is that increase, sir?
I mean, that increase, if I could give you an example, I mean, there's a Lachkura mine for that matter, and Bakeshwar is a thermal power station, 497 kilometers. I mean, the existing freight rates per ton is 702 rupees, which becomes 712 rupees.
Okay.
And that is per ton I'm talking about. And as far as the long lead powerhouses that we are talking about, if something moves from Talcher in Odisha to, for example, Talwandi powerhouse in Punjab, this is 1807 kilometers. I mean, the existing freight charges per ton is 2,343, which becomes 2,138.
Okay, so sir, for the benefit of little clarity, and it will help our viewers also understand, can you give us a rough percentage? If you take the average, and of course the distances will vary, but roughly speaking, how much is the percentage increase for that distance, which is 200 to 700, and how much is the percentage decrease and the rationalization for plants which are further away, which are 700 kilometers plus away?
Okay, I mean, this would be, broadly, in fact, I could tell you this is basically ranging between the reduction would be between 4% to 13%, and the hike between 200 kilometers to 700 kilometers would also be in the range of about 8% to 14%.
What is the net?
This is basically revenue neutral kind of a model.
Yeah, that was my next question. Okay, you're saying it's revenue neutral from a railway finances standpoint. It doesn't change anything much. So just a quick recap before I hand it to Nigel. For the benefit of our viewers, it's a mix of policy measures. 0 to 100 kilometers, there's no hike. 200 to 700 kilometers, there's actually been an increase of 8 to 14%. And for plants which are located more than 700 kilometers away, there's actually a reduction of about 4 to 13%. Those are the changes in tariffs.
Nigel. All right, Mr. Jamshed, I just wanted to get... Mr. Jamshed, you have told us that it's only for coal as of now, but is there any increase on various other commodities, on cement, on steel, on aluminium? Has there been any freight increase on other products?
No, in fact, I would like to mention here and clarify this, that this is an increase or decrease, both in fact, on coal movement. This coal primarily moves to the thermal powerhouses, and the coal also moves to certain industries.
Yeah.
So the coal, whatever coal is being moved,
Yeah.
will be having this advantage and certain kind of rationalization.
Right, Mr. Jamshed, since you're saying that you're all in conversation with various coal users, is what you're telling us. Have they given any kind of clarity in terms of whether this will be passed through or not? How will they deal with it? Have they spoken about that? Given that you'll have a joint meeting.
In a meeting held on 4th of July in Rail Bhavan, in fact, which was 4th August, it was attended by both the Coal Minister and the Minister for Railways, and also power utilities like NTPC. So we all sat down together, in fact, and we started working out, because we are already kind of losing the kind of projected traffic of coal that we had anticipated. We have lost roughly around 30 million tons during the first 4 months because of less demand from these powerhouses, and especially those powerhouses which have been located beyond 700 kilometers. So the whole effort was to kind of encourage movement of coal, transportation of coal, making it more economical to these powerhouses.
Sir,
that was the whole idea. But for rest of the things about passing on, etc., I'm sure that the coal ministry would be.
Sir, is there right now, you've only spoken about coal rationalization. Is there any thought right now to tinker with freight rates on any other commodity?
Oh, at this point, I would certainly like to mention that in the last about 3 months, what we have done is that we have withdrawal post-port congestion charges. We have withdrawn the busy season surcharges. We have done away with the dual iron ore policy. We have encouraged other sectors, in fact, by rationalizing and reclassification. This is for the first time that we had reduced the freight tariff on Indian Railways in the last couple of months.
But sir, sir, coming back to coal, while you've reduced 4 plants which are over 700 kilometers away, why was there need to increase the tariff? Was it to ensure revenue neutrality so that you don't face any additional revenue hit? Is that why there was the increase on the 200 to 700 kilometers bucket?
Basically, it's also about encouraging. We generate our revenue in terms of the net ton kilometers that we move on the Indian Railways. So our net ton kilometers during the first 4 months itself, they're coming down. In fact, they came down by over about 10%. And coal leads, the average lead for movement of the coal traffic also went down from 532 kilometers to 472 kilometers. I mean, this was causing a serious concern because our revenue loss on this particular segment was also increasing, and it was becoming higher and higher. And at some point of time, we realized that this has to be done. And then in consultation with the coal ministry, we have taken certain positive steps.
So, sir, just a last broader question. How are sort of freight revenues shaping up? I was just looking at some data. July has not been a good month. June, you saw a little bit of an increase. I think overall, July freight hasn't performed as well as perhaps you would have liked. So can you just fill us up in terms of total freight revenues so far?
On the freight traffic, I would certainly like to mention, as I mentioned, that we issued that MGR policy. We also gave those short lead concessions. In fact, we have divided the whole thing into two. One is the coal, which is 550 million tons, and other rest of the items that we move are also 550 million tons. We started encouraging all kinds of, not only depending on the coal. As a result of all these measures and reforms, we found that the container traffic, in fact, which was kind of subdued, it was going down by about 5 to 10%, has picked up by about 10%. POL has picked up. Fertilizer indigenous has picked up. Fertilizer imported is also likely to see good times. Iron ore has picked up very, very significantly. Iron ore for exports and iron ore for domestic both. So these are the segments. Cement, we are still waiting to see whether after the monsoons are over. In fact, for possibly all commodities, I mean, July has been very heavy rains, also in August. So we are anticipating and we are thinking that from September onwards, there should be sizable, robust growth in all sectors of the freight.
All right, Mr. Jamshed, we'll leave it on that. No, thanks so much for joining in.